Hello, I hope you're all keeping safe and well. So here we are some 2 months into the lockdown. How is your new normal? Now there's a phrase we used back in March, and obviously I wish I'd copyrighted it. This is a follow-up to that first film called Create a New Normal for now, and if you haven't seen it, I would advise you to do so before watching this one. It's on LinkedIn, and it's also episode 3 on the vlog page of our website. As a behavioural economist, I look at how people actually do behave. And so this has been quite an extraordinary time for my profession, but it has given rise to, this crisis has given rise to some very questionable and ill-informed pop psychology that I've read on platforms and websites. You need to be very wary of this. It's the mental equivalent of being advised to inject yourself with disinfectant. So be mindful of your sources, ensure that they're credible. In the first film, I said that the issue is that whilst we all know this pandemic is temporary, we don't know how temporary. And because the impact on daily life has been so dramatic, we each need to stop, think and create a new normal for now that we can sustain for however long this takes. So hopefully over the past few weeks, you've done that. So now it's time to review the new, to review your own new normal. Throughout this experience, you've doubtlessly been mindful of others, but you need to be mindful of yourselves. You're told on an aircraft to put your own oxygen mask on first before helping others. So consider your own well-being, and I mean really take time to consider it, because your family, colleagues, your community and friends need you. And if you're running a business, your staff, your suppliers, your clients, they need you to be in a position to lead. In the first film, I talked about the stages of grief. So I need to ask, have you found real acceptance? Have you been through denial, through anger, through the bargaining phase and sadness, or are you stuck somewhere on that journey? By really accepting what is happening, we let go of what we can't control and come into the present. And that's where our power lies. Because the phrase, when this is over, I will do, becomes whilst this is happening, I can and will do. But anger could return as restrictions are lifted in a piecemeal way that maybe you don't agree with, or you feel that others are flouting rules that you're adhering to. Also be aware that these stages aren't linear. So we could well continue to experience sadness because the stories are so horrifying. And like I said, we don't know when this will end, but we find control in acceptance, and that is the key. In the first film, I also talk about the potential detriment to your mental well-being on anchoring on future time frames. And I think being wary of this could become more important than ever over the coming weeks. In this case, it's anchoring on an estimation of when the various restrictions will end. You anchor on that time frame and then it arrives and they're still in place. So you reset it, and again that time frame arrives, and once again you have to recalibrate. And this process, this repeating process, has the potential to really wear us down. So as I've said, we need to come into the present, let go of what we can't control. So I would strongly caution anticipating any time frames for this crisis to end, or for certain restrictions to be lifted based on speculation and numbers reported in the news. And this isn't easy when everyone has a view, and some journalists seem to want to be the news rather than just to report it. Now we've been in lockdown for a while, taking a fresh eyes walk through your house and how things are working is a good idea. Make changes, however small, to remove those irritants. Moving that chair that you always have to walk around, looking at where cables are plugged in so you're not tripping over them, agreeing on what can be left out and what needs to be put away at the end of the day. These little changes can make a big difference to how you feel about your work and leisure spaces, and involve everyone in the house. And when you're talking to others, again, be aware that working from home is a different experience in a different environment for each one of us. But let's talk about your new normal. If you've been running your new routine for several weeks, then it's worth reviewing and making sure it's working for everyone. Again, these changes can be small, but also don't be afraid of trying something different. We watched the Netflix documentary Game Changers recently and realised that now's a time when everyone in the house can really control what they eat. So my daughter suggested 2 weeks on a vegan diet. It's certainly created new conversation at meal times, and some of us now have a totally new anchoring point of wanting something to end, but at least it's in our control. So back to that phrase, it's not when this is over, I will do. It's whilst this is happening, I can and will do. Whilst this is happening, I can and will try a different diet. I can and will read War and Peace. I can and will decorate that spare room. I can and will play the drums better. I can and will take a fresh eyes look at my business. I can and will clear out that loft. Whatever it is, take time to stop and think about what you can and will do whilst this is happening. And when it comes to clear outs, if our house is anything to go by, the charity shops are going to need more floor space than ever when they reopen. But take time to consider what you can do. And maybe have a night out in, celebrate that birthday or anniversary, turn somewhere in your house into a restaurant, put on that black tie or evening dress, call at the front door with a flower, because whilst this is happening, we can and will have a great night out whilst staying in, and it will be memorable. A few warnings: beware of infinity pools, beware of routine anxiety, and beware of lockdown guilt. Infinity pools are these apps and websites that provide an infinitely refreshing supply of content, and they can be difficult to resist. So make sure you are controlling them and not the other way around, because they can be real-time vampires. Also, don't fall into routine anxiety. Even though people may be telling you of all the changes they have made and how productive they've become, so what? Don't become jealous of other people's routines. And lockdown guilt. You may be struggling with the changes that you're having to make and the things you're currently not permitted to do, but you feel bad about that because you feel that compared to what's happening elsewhere, it's trivial. So you start feeling bad about feeling bad. Well, whatever it is, whatever has impacted your life, irrespective of how small you may feel it is happening to you. So it does matter, and you have a right to that feeling and reaction. So rather than have comparative guilt, just have admiration for what you see happening elsewhere. Maybe you're feeling that you're not coping as well as you should and maybe not admitting it. Maybe you don't feel you're doing your job from home quite as well as you could. If you're helping with homeschooling, maybe you feel you're a bad teacher. Quadratic equations, I haven't looked at those for years. A mystery to me. So anyway, I'm introducing far more important lessons into the timetable. So next week we start with Led Zeppelin, the early years. I think that's going to be far more valuable to my family. Seriously though, this lockdown guilt has been the subject of a lot of confidential conversations. So be really mindful of how friends, family and colleagues are feeling, and make sure you're having the conversations that matter. As I've said before, when this is over, we will all have mirrors to look into, and we'll all want to feel that we've done the right thing. So despite the horrendous human and financial cost, I'm sure that you've all witnessed fantastic acts of kindness and communities coming together, and maybe felt this is an opportunity to reset a few things in life. So build on that positivity and build lasting memories by making sure you can and will do those things that matter. What will people remember about you when this is over? What do you want them to say about you when you're not in the room? And when asked in years to come, what do you remember about the pandemic? What kind of stories do you want to tell? As I've said before, stock up on goodwill, empathy and compassion. And it's never been a better time to be a good friend, a good boss, a good colleague, a good customer, a good mum, dad, son, daughter, brother, sister, a good neighbour. Stay safe. I'm off to do some lesson planning. Take care.